Hey, what is going on, guys? It's DK back at you with another video here to break down the Thursday Night Football showdown slate. And this one should be a great one. We got the Bills and we got the Dolphins. If it's your first time watching, we cover content for daily fantasy sports as well as for player prop stuff like Prize Picks, Underdog. Underdog, they're the sponsor of today's video. You can use the link down below or the code DKDFS for a $1,000 deposit match bonus. Would highly recommend it. Yeah, been having a ton of fun on Underdog with player props. And if you guys are looking for more content, goes check out my Patreon, linked in the description. I recapped everything from week one in my early look video. If you guys want to go check that out, but probably my best week ever betting. Was absolutely insane. Hit a 25x, fed the timeline to 10x on Sunday night. Hit the use check nuke. It was insane. If you guys want to go check out the full thing, a recap, it's in that video. But let's see if we can keep it going for this show. And also, I'm going to be going on Neil's channel. We're going to be doing a dual stream, hour and a half before lock. Neil Orford, go ahead and check him out as well. He puts out really good content. And again, we'll be doing a live stream there. All right. So with that all out of the way, let's get into the video. We can quickly go over, I don't know, up right now. Let me bring up the odds for this game. So, currently, it's a 48.5 over under, and the Dolphins are currently 2.5 point favorites. So a lot of offense expected in this game. No surprise. But we got to talk about the elephant in the room here, and that's going to be the running backs here for Miami. So Raheem Mostert already ruled out. Devin Achane questionable, but I do expect him to play. So we'll keep an eye on it. Obviously, if he's out, then it's going to be Jeff Wilson Jr. and Jalen Wright season. They would be the top two backs. Now, as far as who's going to get the work behind Achane, I think it's most likely going to be Jeff Wilson, but there's a chance. There's a chance it could be Jalen Wright, or it could be a mix of the two of them behind Achane. All right, so we'll start off here at the top with Tyreek Hill, 11.6K. I think a really good option. Obviously, don't think we had to spend a ton of time here. He's going to be very popular. The kind of chalk build tomorrow is going to be starters and scrubs with some value opening up for the Dolphins at running back. We also have some value at wide receiver for the Bills we'll talk about. But Tyreek Hill, massive ceiling, the highest ceiling of anyone on the slate. Week 1, 7 catches, 12 targets, over 100 yards. Great play. And Josh Allen, I think, is also too cheap at 11K. So we know Josh Allen's very mobile. He'll keep it himself a lot near the goal line, kind of Jalen Hurts-esque. Again, this game should be played at a fast pace, close to 50 over-under. So Josh Allen also looks great. I expect those two to be very popular, and they should be. All right, Chan at 9.6. We'll keep an eye on the status. It is, what's the exact injury again? His ankle. I saw a practice video yesterday, and looked like he was moving around pretty good. Didn't have a non-contact jersey on either. So my assumption is he will play. I don't think he'll be limited either if he plays. Now, if that's the case, I think he looks really good. Going over some snap counts here for Miami. Hold on one sec. I got a sneeze coming. Sorry about that. So you saw two running backs a lot for Miami last week. Achane, 37 snaps, and ran 28 routes. They targeted him a ton out of the backfield. They just want to give him the ball, right? 7 catches on 7 targets. So with Mostert already gone, I expect him to get more carries too. So he looks really good, assuming he can stay healthy. And then you got Tua Tagovailoa at 9.4. I think it'll get some ownership, but not be super popular because obviously you can't get to all the spend ups on the slate. And I think people are going to prioritize Hill and Josh Allen first. But Tua still has a ceiling. Obviously not as high of a floor as Josh Allen because it's not going to do much on the ground. But still a guy with a pretty high ceiling and still firmly in play at only 9.4K. That does feel a bit underpriced for a guy with his upside. Well, James Cook is at 9K. So taking a look at the Bills snap counts last week, you saw James Cook play 37 and 61 snaps. So that's actually pretty good. He ran 15 routes. So he's the clear RB1. And at 9K, I think he's a fine contrarian play. I don't think he's going to get a ton of ownership. Like I said, you can't play all the spend ups, and a few of the other guys we talked about before, I think are going to get a lot more ownership. But 19 carries and 3 catch on 3 targets is good stuff for Cook. So I think he's a good contrarian play. But again, I don't think a little bit that much ownership. Jalen Waddle, I think, is a fine pivot off of Tyreek Hill, as he usually is. Waddle's out there a ton as well. Last week, he played 51 snaps, ran 34 routes. Hill played 50 snaps and ran 39 routes. So, yeah, the two Dolphins receivers have a pretty high ceiling. Now, can you play them both together? Sure. You can definitely play them both together. It's expensive. Maybe you have to go cheaper captain, or you're going to have to play, a couple really cheap plays. But, Waddle, another guy in the mid-range has a pretty good ceiling. And I think a guy that's in for a nice bounce back here is going to be Dalton Kincaid. 7.2K. I also don't think it'll be that popular because of the price. And I think box score watchers will kind of avoid it. But here's the thing with Dalton Kincaid. Like, the snaps and the routes are still there. So I'm not super worried. I'm not going to overreact to one game. I expect him to bounce back. He ran played 51 of the 61 snaps. And ran 25 of the 32 routes. So I think Kincaid still has a pretty high ceiling here. Again, you have no more Stephon Diggs, no more Gabe Davis. So there's just a lot of targets to go around with this Bills offense. Josh Allen only threw the ball 23 times last game. Expect him to throw the ball a little bit more in this game. So I think Kincaid is in for a nice bounce back game. Khalil Shakir is coming in at 6.2K. A solid option. He played the second most at wide receiver. So the Bills did rotate guys, but he played 33 of the 61 snaps. So that's not great, but he did run 22 of the 32 routes. They ran a majority of the routes, and he ran a majority of those from the slot. So Shakir, I think, is going to have a relatively high floor. I think he's going to be a high target guy. I bet his over 3.5 receptions the other day. Decent option there in the mid-range. What else? Keon Coleman played the most of any of the Bills wide receivers. So he played 45 to 61 snaps and ran 29 of the 32 routes. A guy with big play upside and coming in at a reasonable price point. So ownership's going to play a big role in what I do with these Bills receivers, right? You got Shakir in the mid-range. You got Keon Coleman. I don't think Curtis Samuel's going to get much ownership. We'll talk about him in a sec. But, for example, if Keon Coleman is going to be way more popular than Shakir, then I'm leaning Shakir. If it's the other way around, I would lean Coleman. If they're similar ownership, then I think you're going to have to make a tough call. But if one of these guys is going to get more ownership, a lot more ownership than the other, or a good amount more, I think I'd prefer the lower owned option. I think both still have a ceiling, but yeah, they were the top two. And then Curtis Samuel's at 5.4. I think it's pretty hard to get to him unless we get some confirmation that the playing time is going to increase. So here's the thing. One of my bets Monday night was Curtis Samuel under 13.5 longest reception. So Curtis Samuel only played 17 snaps and only ran 9 routes. And because I did have people mentioning the turf toe for Curtis Samuel, no mention of that. So here's the exact quote. I'll bring it up on my Twitter. Let me scroll back and find that. So where is it? So head coach Sean McDermott, when asked if wide receiver Curtis Samuel's toe injury impacted his lower snap count, didn't give the toe injury much mention and said they were just going with the flow of the game. He said Samuel did a good job. So that is worrisome. Also, Mac Hollins moved ahead of Curtis Samuel on the depth chart. And another downside with Samuel is he's mainly a slot guy, right? And Shakir played mostly in the slot. And Samuel's not going to play over Shakir. Another reason that I like that bet is Curtis Samuel is a low ADOT guy, average depth of target. So, his opening receiving line was 20.5. Then that's got bet down to like 16.5 or 17.5. And I took the under 13.5 long reception. I think that's been bet down to 11.5. So we got some nice CLV there if you guys have been tailing over on Twitter. Bulls kickers, fine options in Bass and Sanders, 4.8 and 4.4 respectively. A lot of points expected in this game. Very safe plays. As far as the defenses go, Bills D at 4K, Dolphins D at 3K. Both fair options. I'm not going to prioritize either. If you land in either defense, that is totally fine. You have Ray Davis is at 3.6K for the Bills. So in week 1, he only played 6 snaps and only ran 2 routes. It was Ty Johnson that played ahead of him. He played 14 snaps and ran 8 routes. So kind of hard to get to Ray Davis. However, in those limited snaps, he did have 4 touches. So he had 6 snaps overall, and he touched the ball 4 times. Maybe the snaps will increase, but again, 6 snaps total for a guy at that price range is not great. And then you had a pretty disgusting rotation here for Miami at tight end. So you had Durham Smythe played 30 snaps, run 15 routes. Julian Hill played 42 snaps, run 17 routes. Jonnu Smith, 20 snaps, 19 routes. So of the three tight ends, Smith played the least, but he ran the most routes. Look at the price points. You got Smith at 2.8. You have Durham Smythe at 1K. And then you have, where is depth chart? Probably easier. Julian Hill is $600. So they're all cheap. All three of these tight ends are in play. I think Smith is probably the safest based on the fact that I think he's their best pass catcher and he also ran the most routes. But I think any of those tight ends are viable dart throws. Another viable dart throw for Buffalo is going to be Dawson Knox, the backup tight end. So still involved. 35 snaps of the 61. So he played over half the snaps and ran 15 of the 32 routes. So, Dawson Knox, obviously behind Kincaid, but still a guy that can look to the red zone and is relatively cheap. But I think your top value, the guy that's going to get the most ownership in the slate, is going to be Jeff Wilson Jr. My expectation is that he will be the RB2 behind Achane. But there is a chance it could be right? It's definitely possible. Wright was inactive last week. He's going to be active this game. There's a chance. We'll see what the ownership is. If Jeff Wilson's going to be massive chalk and no one's going to play Wright, then maybe it makes sense to take a shot at Wright in tournaments. But I think the most likely outcome is Wilson's RB2, Wright's the RB3. Wright maybe gets a little bit of work, but Wilson will be kind of your top overall value play. Ty Johnson, we mentioned him, right? I think I would rather get to him over Davis because he played 14 snaps and ran 8 routes and is cheaper at 2.2. So yeah, Ty Johnson, another viable dart throw. A lot of guys that are in play on the cheap end on this slate, really, like MVS. He's a deep threat. He's the wide receiver 5, but still a guy that was out there a little bit, ran 5 routes, 12 snaps. So again, he's running those deep routes. I know he got targeted at least 1 deep ball. He got targeted twice, but he is a guy that can stretch the field. Matt Collins at 1.6, I think is also a pretty good value, assuming he plays similar snaps. So he played 36 of the 61 snaps and ran 21 of the 32 routes. So if that continues, I think Matt Collins looks like a really good value play there. Braxton Berrios is 1.2. So looking at the other Miami receivers, besides Hill and Waddle, Berrios played the most. He played 26 snaps, ran 22 routes. And then behind that, you had Grant DeBows play 13 snaps, 10 routes. Robbie Chosen or Robbie Anderson, 12 snaps and 7 routes. So those guys viable dart throws. But I think if I was going to target a other Dolphin wide receiver, it would be Braxton Berrios. Let's see. Is there anything else I wanted to mention? Quentin Morris played 6 snaps and ran 0 routes. Don't think we can go there. Reggie Gilliam, the fullback, only 4 snaps, 1 route. I think there's anything else. Let me just double check. Talk about all the tight ends for Miami. I guess there was a 4th tight end that played, Tanner Connor. He played 3 snaps, ran 3 routes. But I think that's going to do it for the breakdown, guys. As always, if you do enjoy, just make sure to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. And if you are looking for more content, you can check out my Patreon link in the description. Really appreciate all the support as always. Good luck, and I'll see you guys all in the next video.